Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to MMPC 11, Block 3, and Unit 8, the chapter on group dynamics and team building. From our childhood, we must have done several individual projects. And as time passed and we moved to higher classes, we were assigned group tasks. In both the cases, we were successful for certain reasons. When it comes to an individual effort, either we were physically able or mentally able or uh, have both these physical and mental abilities in order to complete an assignment. And also there are certain tasks which we managed individually where we were very good at the maneuverability of the task, the way we do it. But as we moved on to group tasks, we have seen that our abilities are not totally sufficient, and there were certain areas where we needed expertise of others, and this is where multiple individuals formed a group to complete a common task with a common purpose. So compared to the individual effort, the assisted effort has got multiple brain capabilities, multiple physical capabilities, and also a lot of coordinated effort which made the project successful. Yes, when we have a multiple individual effort, we actually are in the form of a group working together. So, what is a group? A group is two or more individuals interacting and involved in an interdependent task with a common purpose in achieving the common goal with a common interest. A group that builds bonds amongst each other, and continuously comes together and accomplishes more and more of tasks or more and more of goals at regular intervals, satisfying the interpersonal relations to run the tasks smoothly in a coordinated fashion, have interest in the task, and also meet the purpose, can stay for a longer time together because of the bond they build between. So we need to understand what is this group effort and the coordinated efforts of individuals, how they build the bonds for the group to sustain a longer duration or period in order to accomplish more and more organizational tasks. So when we mention the word organization, it is very clear that an organization is a set of several groups under one roof working for a common purpose or goal, together coordinated efforts and collaborate their skills and abilities. An organization usually creates a lot of formal groups. At the same time, we can notice several informal groups as well cropping up from the organization, within the organization, between organizations as well. We can see certain groups forming. Informal groups are not deliberate attempts of creating a group by the organization. Rather, it is the individuals with common interests who come together to form a group. So they have some common interests. So those informal groups which come with a common interest, we can name them as interest groups. There may be certain people, individuals working in an organization who have certain common tastes and interests, who come together to form a group in order to recreate themselves, entertain themselves, rejuvenate themselves, motivate themselves. Such informal groups may be called as recreational groups. Also, when they interact on tasks assigned by the organization, several individuals come across each other who like each other, who get affiliated to each other, and form certain acquaintances who meet regularly, seek each other's, I mean, um, each other's wellness, each other's, they keep each other in good morale and socialize or develop a kind of a fellowship which keeps them motivated. And such informal groups we can call a friendly group, right? And also we may have certain unions developing which are not recognized by, and are not deliberately created, but people who come with a common interest, vested interest, and then they understand that together they can achieve something. So they may form an informal union, which later on, when it gets stronger, has certain norms developed, may form a structured group. Now, these are informal. Let us come to the formal groups which an organization creates deliberately, looking at the task at hand. Now, to create such conscious groups, or to put such a conscious effort to promote a group, uh, the organization can come up with different types of groups like committees or task forces. Then there are task groups. Then there are teams, and there are several types of teams. We will look into each of these types of teams at a later time today. But now let's understand what are committees. Usually committees are long-term groups. They are created for a certain purpose with a certain goal which defined, and then there are certain bylaws or charters or statutes along which the individuals in that group, in that committee, abide by, and these rules and these norms help them achieve the group strength and the group cohesion, and keep them together in order to achieve the desired task. Task force are also similar to committees, but then task force may come with different structures altogether. Uh, and there can be certain temporary committees as well, which we term as ad hoc committees. Now, these ad hoc committees they have a certain deadline and a defined task. Once that is completed, the ad hoc teams disperse, or say cease to exist as a group, except for the experience and the records they maintain as files in order to refer later about the task or the experience that they gained through this interaction. The next is task force. Now, task force may have several subgroups called the task groups, and each of the task group may have subgroups called the task units. Imagine the state government plans to conduct a certain surveillance and find out the cause of certain problem, and then also design a solution for this. And the ministerial portfolio may come up with a certain task force. This task force may have district-wise groups, which we can call as task groups, and under each district there might be certain deputed individuals who work as units. So task force will have task groups, which will have task units. Once the assignment is completed, again these people may resort to their regular duties, and then may be ready for a next committee or group. So we have a clear understanding of what group basically is, and then informal and formal groups we discuss, and the types of groups usually we see in an organization. Let us now understand how does a group develop. Bruce Tuckman suggested a 5-stage model of group development. If we take a certain task, and then we want a group to develop, we can deliberately select certain people and put them in a group. Yes, or people may voluntarily come up and say they would like to resolve a certain problem uh, with their effort, which is a conscious, non-deliberate attempt by the organization. Rather, it is an individual effort. In either case, there is a gathering of certain people with a common interest who have come together. And when they come together, each individual, as we know, are different and have come with different opinions. So, the formation stage or the first stage of group development, wherein the initiation is about people coming together and agreeing upon certain basic needs and the ways to resolve something. So they are. It is an initiated group by over an agreement amongst the people with a common interest. At this stage, there still is a lot of ambiguity about who would do what. That means the role each individual will play and how they would contribute to the problem or the task at hand. Here also, neither there is a role clarity nor there is a specific purpose, but then everybody is only aware of the problem they are facing. This group basically requires guidance, and also as there isn't a leader appointed yet, so they may also be lacking certain direction to go. So with a set of people come together to resolve something, to take up a project, we have people with a common interest, but the purpose is not well defined, or the goal is not fixed. So the next is where people start interacting. There will be a lot of commotion. There will be a lot of hue and cry. There will be a lot of irregular proposals or contribution of information. Whatever people know, they start pouring in. So there isn't any structure. So the second stage, basically, people, the participant realize that there is a commotion, and then people are struggling for power. So, some people may be wanting to lead the group. Some people may be wanting to bear a certain status in order to execute their role. Meanwhile, since nothing is structured, there may be some subgroups formed, which we call them cliques or some fractions. So it is very essential for this gathered people to come into a structure. So it is very necessary to appoint a leader who would then bring up certain guidelines. There may be a participative decision and consensus on which what kind of rules and norms have to be abided by the members. And they also clarify the purpose of the group. They can fix a certain defined goal, right? And then members at this time start assessing each other. Like they will find the strengths and weaknesses of each other and start working on that, how they would avail someone's abilities or someone's competencies, and this is the time when they start understanding each other, they start building trust, and also they develop a certain comfort zone between each other, and they start accepting each other. And by the end of this second stage, we can see a lot of compatibility developing, a common understanding developing, a certain to a certain level. There's an affiliation between interactants is seen, and also people may notice who could be the possible leader. They may suggest one, or the leader may take the initiative by himself or herself and emerge as the as the guide and torch bearer, we can say, or the trailblazer, we can say. So the leader emerges and plays the role of coaching the group. Now, in the second stage, we have seen that it is taking shape and there is a possibility of a leader. And also, people started falling into some kind of a norm. So here, the third stage begins, which is called as norming, where increased role clarity is observed, possibly recorded, and also responsibilities are divided amongst the members. And there is an increased agreement between members, and there's a lot of consensus that can be seen between members. And the group focuses now on decision making, and there will be greater participation, greater interaction in a coordinated fashion, in a structured fashion. People will be following the norms. And we can also see certain visibility. I mean, we can see certain tasks shaping up, and the visibility of these tasks shaping into the desired achievement or goal. Okay, the leader as a facilitator increases his or her contribution, and by the end of the third stage, we can see the group almost ready to take necessary steps regarding their role and the responsibility they are bestowed with. So the fourth stage is performing, where people are very focused. They put their respective efforts. They use their strengths because there is a clear vision of where they are heading towards. The purpose and the goal are very clear. Every member can express what their purpose of the group formation is, or what is the task that they are achieving to arrive at what kind of a goal. Uh, Sorry. If there are any disagreements, they are adequately resolved at this stage, because there is better coordination, better affiliation. Also, there is a leader who can listen to the problems and channelize their energies into, towards the right direction. The leader delegates work and oversees the group's performance during this stage, and the group together comes towards the end of the task. They complete it, they achieve it, and they are now left with the last stage, that is adjourning. The fifth stage, adjourning. At this time, people who have achieved, contributed, enriched the entire experience will be recognized and appreciated by the leader. Now, this boosts up their morale. So, the next time, if any such project comes, the team, by now having built a very good understanding and affiliation, would certainly come back for a new project, a bigger challenge, and greater efforts can be put with gained experience. So the group members display a good feeling and a sense of achievement in the adjourning stage, and the group disperses to their respective uh, duties, maybe other projects or other groups they are members of. Okay. Now let us understand the determinants of group productivity. Now, what makes a group achieve its desired expectations, and how do they achieve it? So, what factors need to be considered in creating a group that will enable the success of a group's effort towards the desired or expected goal? First is the group size. Uh, Usually, an optimal size will make available resources adequate. If we have too many members, then the resources may fall short. Say, suppose a small work place and a group of 10 people, and then the limited resources of instruments or devices will not permit every worker to complete his or her task. So instead of having 10 members there, we can have 6 or 7 members. So we must ensure that the number of hands required, the number of people required in order to complete the task is proportionate to the volume and the effort required. If we have too less a number in the group, then possibly the task will not be completed by the desired time and to the desired expectation of quality or say the conditions that they have worked upon. So we need to decide here. So when we take a smaller group, if we see small groups, how does that work? Now, the fewer the members to share, the more the responsibility. Now, more the members, then the responsibility are distributed, no wonder. But sometimes, if the number is too large, the responsibilities may get diluted because they will expect the other person to do that particular duty if there is a role duplication. So we need to check that there isn't any unnecessary additional human resource so that the works get disrupted. If we have a large group, there are fewer opportunities for participants. Not everybody gets a chance to do certain tasks or prove themselves. If people are interested to prove themselves and have a self interest as well. The domination by aggressive members will be high when there is a larger group. But when it is a smaller group, the kind of distribution takes place is depending upon their expertise, and it can be more clear, or say there can be more. Because there isn't any overlap, and also there is a focus and role clarity. People go with the assigned duties and complete the task. Now, there is a tendency to split into subgroups if we have very large groups, and that may also lead to the dilution of interest. And some people may also feel that less important and may gradually get secluded and even remain absent. And when their role is required, they may not be available. So the absenteeism increases if we have very large groups, and also it is very difficult to maintain. We know people are different. We also know people have different perceptions, and people have different emotional balances. So the interactions need to be controlled, manipulated at times, and then and this may give rise to a lot of conflicts as well, and then the conflicts resolution take a lot of time. So the larger the groups, then there are also additional problems which will slow down the process of the group's effort. Increase in group size may lead to process loss as well, in the sense like there are too many people working in a place. The movements will be restricted. People will be blocking each other's task. This we can see even at home when there's a party and there are people working. When there are too many people working, you know how each one might be obstructing the path of other, and that gets the things slowed down. Then there is something called social loafing. When we have too many people in the group, there is a possibility that those who are idle for that moment may start gossiping or socializing, which may hamper the flow of the task. And they may also come up with certain negative energy, and this might disrupt the functioning of the. Sorry for that. Okay. The next factor that determines the group's productivity is the group composition. You have to have a homogeneous group or a heterogeneous group. If it is a physical labor that is required, then we can have a group of laborers who can put that manual labor into. So we need a homogeneous group. But if we have to bring up a project which involves expertise of more than one domain, in which case we need to have several subgroups working, and then the expertise from different domains. So it has group. So we need to check homogeneous or heterogeneous group is required for depending upon the goal that is to be achieved. And when we are doing this, we can also understand from the group composition how people would be interacting. There are certain psychometric tests which help the leader or the manager understand how best the group will interact, which is called as the 5OB, the fundamental interpersonal relation orientation, and the behavior. The behavior assessment tool, in which the fundamental dimensions that are measured are inclusion, control, and affiliation or affection, we can say. Now, what is inclusion? Now, inclusion is recognizing each other's effort, including people or belonging to the group, and personal belongingness towards the task or the goal or the organization, the level of participation one renders, and how they contact each other or how they interact with each other and how they related to each other and the group is inclusion. How involved am I in the group? Control is how can I influence others, or how do I get influenced by others? The leadership, can I take a leadership? Sorry. And also, how do I take the responsibility so that the task can be under my control? The role I'm assigned to can be as a responsibility of mine, accomplished properly. So how much of control will I have on self, on others, and the task, and how best can I meet individually and along with others. There's a second dimension, and the third dimension is affection, which talks about how can I develop that closeness with others? How do I develop the bond with others? How do I show my warmth to others? And how can I be that sensible to others' intentions, interactions, and tasks? How do I sensitivity? How do I show my openness towards the group members and the task in hand? And how do I relate to others? With these three dimensions, there are the 5OB assessment indicates preferences in regard to two aspects, that is expressed behavior and wanted behavior. Expressed behavior is like related to the inclusion and affection. Now, how much do I take an initiative and how do I show the behavior? What kind of behavior do I show regarding my intention to include me and others into the group task? The behavior with respect to the inclusion, control, and affection, and also the individual's comfort, lent in engaging in the behavior related to associated with this inclusion, control, and affection. Wanted behavior talks about how much does an individual prefer others to consider their inclusion, to take the initiative. Will I express that I am interested to associate, or will I be expecting others to invite me, welcome me to take the initiative? This is the wanted behavior. Let others ask and I will do it. Or if it is an express behavior, I said, I can do this. So this is what can be checked, tested, and accordingly the manager will coordinate the team members when they understand the individual's approach towards the group through this 5OB tool. Uh, the third determinant of the group productivity will be the group norms. Now, the group norms can be like fairness, reciprocity, reasonableness. Uh, Fairness is like, are we equitable in our approach to each other? Is everyone looked with the same eye and intention, or are there any discriminations around? So, any discrimination must be eliminated or registered. There is reciprocity, like if one person voluntarily helps other, the other should also reciprocate to the person's help. And this will bring the bonding, this will make the bonding stronger. Then there has to be reasonableness. When we say norms, it has to be reasonable. Like people shouldn't be exploiting, even the leader shouldn't be exploiting any of the group member. And the fourth one is the role expectation. Now, the norms should enable that the role expected and the role performed must be matching. Uh, so the group norms depend basically on the beliefs, the values, the attitude of people, the feelings they have towards each other. And the norms serve a certain purpose, and there are three functions for the norms. One is predictive, the second is control, and the third is relational. And norms provide a basis for understanding and regulating the members' behavior. Now, how are norms developed? Well, members' past experience may suggest what is good for this current group, or or if we can go by primacy, like the group came together, as we discussed in the very first days, that the group comes for initial one or two interactions. They notice certain things which keep peace or tranquility in the interactions, or say coordination happening. Now, and they might have observed like what makes that group conduct themselves peacefully and heading towards the goal. Now, those patterns can be recorded, noted, and they can be converted as norms, which the groups set as an expectation from each other. Then there might be a critical incident which has happened in the past or in the previous, when they were working together, and this might lead to certain norms. Like in the previous group, there was a conflict regarding how they choose a leader. So this time they may decide from the very beginning the leader must be chosen by election instead of going for selection. So such critical incidents may also lead to to work out on what kind of norms can can keep the current group intact and progressing. Then there can be certain statements which few of the senior members or experienced people or the supervisors must have mentioned in the initial interactions or meetings, which may be translated into norms from the very beginning. So if those meetings had the MOMs, minutes of the meeting, from there, those points can be freezed into the norms. Now, do we really require enforcing norms? First of all, if the norms are strongly enforced, it keeps the group intact, and the group can survive till the task accomplishment and further as well. Wherein during the adjournment, the group understand that they together have been a great strength and potential, and may take up more such projects and expand the organization. Then strongly enforced if the norms reflect the preference of supervisors or other powerful members, and also the strongly enforced norms can predict what behavior is expected of members, which will help them be on track and also interact without any conflict, and also to avoid any embarrassing interpersonal interactions or problems, we can say. Now, we were discussing the determinants of group productivity, and we discussed the group size, the group composition, the norms, and the next one is group task. Now, the groups performance depends on the group tasks. Are classified on the basis of time frame. It can on the task requirement or the task objective. Now, based on the time frame, it can be a short-term project or a long-term project, or a short-term goal or a long-term goal that they can work on. And task requirement can be like the amount of information generated and the creativity and the capabilities required in order to accomplish the task through proper transmission of these strengths into the desired goal, and also the level of interaction required, which is basically the task requirement. How often do they meet? Where do they meet? What do they accomplish in each of the interaction? Sorry. So this task requirement will depend upon the level of interaction between the group member, the skills of the members also, right? Now the task objective. Task objective can be production tasks, or say discussion tasks, or it can be the problem solution or the resolution tasks. In production tasks, what we see is what each individual contributes or puts in his efforts. In discussion tasks, we usually see like if there are any hitches, if there are any problems or issues arising, how do they summarize, how do they rephrase the problem, and how do they solve the problem through discussion and decision making. And in problem solving tasks, they basically generate the potential solution considering various alternatives. For a group to function effectively, there has to be group cohesiveness. Now, the total field of forces causing the members to remain in the group is what we call the group cohesiveness, which depends upon the group needs, which depends upon the individual members' needs, which may depend upon the type of group activities that is involved in the entire project, the past experience of the people, and also the morale and motivation that the group members as a group bear. So how does this group cohesiveness work? Now, there must be mutual affiliation towards each other. They need to understand each other. They need to find out the way they can interact with, the best way to communicate with each other. The way they interact, if there is cohesiveness, then there will not be any or they can mitigate the conflict possibilities. Now, how does cohesiveness come? One is intrinsic. Now, they have to have an orientation towards the group, towards the task, towards the achievements, towards the expectation, and respect to each other, and valuing each other's expertise, beliefs. This is one we have. Sometimes cohesion also comes when there is an external threat. in order not to let that external threat to impact on the working and disrupting the entire attempt of the project. Now the group comes up with better understanding, broadening their perspectives about each other, and they together confront the problems coming with utmost cooperation. And this cooperation comes only when there is empathy and proper communication. So there must be a severity of initiation, like more difficult to get admission into the group, the higher will be the cohesiveness. Because we understand, like, there is a certain restriction be part of this group, and there are certain wavelengths, there are certain expectations which need to be met, and there is a certain responsibility of an individual having been included in that group. So the importance given to individual helps them keep that cohesion intact, and it requires a lot of cooperation as well. And then the attitudes and values, beliefs validate the social acceptability of each other and the group. Uh, Larger size groups actually decreases cohesiveness, because there will be subgroups. Every group member may not get attention. There will be lesser mutual interaction, and there was a small power failure. I hope I'm reaching you. So let me continue with this. Increased division of labor in case of large groups may restrict the inter-group interactions, and this may bring down the cohesiveness, because there are too many smaller groups, and each group may have their internal cohesion, but inter-group cohesion may fail because of too many groups and too many group members, and also not getting an opportunity to interact with every other person. So, what are the consequences of such a cohesion when we are intending to understand the functioning of a group? Now, if the cohesion is positive, then between people, and this will increase the morale of people, and they all put the efforts in a convergent fashion, and they eliminate any kind of a conflict or issue, and any conflict arising will be resolved immediately. And they will always attempt to have better communication through sharing the information, the ideologies, are now shared by each other. The background and attitude are understood by each other. So this brings up a better communication scope, and there is increased productivity if there is positive cohesion. And how does this increase? Because there are fewer work-related anxieties. People know their roles. People know each other. People know the expectations. People have the expertise. That is why they have come under this special group or committee or task force. So there, and when there is high cohesion and the cohesion is positive, we see lesser absenteeism and turnover. So people work without any interruption, and they reach the deadlines also smoothly or easily. There will be lesser when there is high cohesion. On the contrary, if the cohesion is negative or less cohesion, then there can be a group think. There will be subgroups or fractions, and this group think may influence the overall group and may deviate from the goals that they have assigned. There will be low norms that will be that which in turn will impact productivity. Well, of course, very high norms with low cohesiveness are also not so, not will reduce the productivity. Yet, it has to be ensured that there is good cohesiveness. When we talk about a group and when we talk about different individuals coming in, then there is something called a status congruence. Now, we understand status as a social ranking with a group assigned to an individual on the basis of the position in the group, right? Now, the status systems in organizations may have positive or negative consequences. People understand the status, the role, responsibility, the through that hierarchy, like the superior and the subordinate. We can say like there is a status congruence. That means there is an agreement of the status between the senior and the junior, or the superior and the subordinate, because of the differences in status levels. And such high status congruence will enable the group and energy to be directed towards the goal or task achievement. If there is a low status congruence, then it consumes the group's energy. I mean, particularly the leader will have to bring in peace, resolve the conflicts, and bring in harmony, which will sap out the energy of the group. So, if there is any kind of a status differences in order to get the tasks done, then the manager needs to ensure that there is a status congruence. That is, people agree to the different status based on their expertise, the role, the responsibility, etc. Now, let us see the different types of teams that we come across in an organization. Usually, what we find is a work team, a group of people assigned a certain work, usually working together on a daily basis, now which we call a work team. Then we come across a cross-functional team wherein people or experts from different departments or divisions or domains come together to render their expert opinions, services, abilities in order to accomplish a certain task. So we have a cross-functional team. Usually they come from the same hierarchical level, but from different departments. Then we have a top management team. Usually the top management team is small. Even in an organization structure, we can see that a very small team of top management with very high level of and a very high degree of individuality and interdependence amongst these top management teams. We may have process improvement teams wherein highly interactive coordinators focus on improvement of work processes and how to achieve with adequate resource utilization or optimal utilization, and keeping abreast with the developments that are happening, so that the project, by the time it is completed, it's not phased out or obsolete. So the upgradations have to be kept in mind. So they need to have, sometimes it is required that there is some such process improvement teams with, who help to keep the quality standards according to the market requirements. Then there are project teams. Now, project teams are also similar to cross-functional teams or say suppose process improvement teams, but then here there's a certain project that they take up. So the expert from different functional areas team up, but may have optimal contribution at different levels of the task of the task completion. They may Herein, there might be few people working in the initial stage, and then there are few others. Then again, there are few others. So stage wise, they will be working. That's a project team. So it moves from one stage to the other, and that's how they manage. There are certain self-managed teams, as it is explanatory, self-explanatory. We can understand self-managed team have a leader as such. Such teams come together because of their common interest and goal, and these teams may lack certain direction at times because there isn't a designated leader. Well, self-managed, that is why it is self-managed team, possibly because they understand their roles and responsibilities, but sometimes it is deprived of suitable guidance, for which the project may, the task may take a little longer. They may not complete by the designated deadline. Okay, there are virtual teams as well. Thanks to the technology and the various devices that enable people to create teams work virtually from located in different geographical belts of the globe, saving on time for travel, the cost of travel, and also the effort required to come together. So virtual teams are effective, but there is a certain level of doubt about the trustworthiness of people, because they are physically away from each other, geographically distanced, and the seriousness of the individual may not be visible, or may not be, I mean, cannot be really found out. Okay, and then we have this quality circles. These kind of teams of experts from same domain. Um, we have project teams, experts coming from different domain, cross-functional coming from different domain, but the quality circle usually come from the same domain in order to enhance the quality or maintain the quality, or I mean, um, and each expert herein is accountable and responsible and is highly involved into this to contribute and bring up the best products or services to the market. Okay, let us now see like how teams are built, or in the process of team building, what factors do we see. It's almost like what we have seen in the development, group development, like the size, the composition, the diversity, the composition, diversity, homogeneous, heterogeneous, and all. The sorry, the goal setting, and team building happens with effective communication, because effective communication can enhance the cohesiveness, cooperation, the collaboration of people working together, bringing in their desired resources to coordinate and accomplish the task. And through effective communication, they can also build rapport, maintain the relations, and also build that level of trust to create the bond between the members, to keep them together till the entire project is completed. Um, and there must be, through proper communication, they promote empathy. The leader also accomplishes the task through effective communication. The leader can bring up understanding of where necessary, enhancement of skills, and can plan certain training on technical and non-technical issues or behavioral issues in order to keep the team intact. And well, to end up this discussion, we can have some idea on the problems that affect team what kind of a problem may hinder the functioning of an effective group and team. One is the changes in the team composition. There are certain members, and those members are getting transferred or they quit for certain reason and they are replaced by others. This may disintegrate the interpersonal relations between people. Like again, they need to get acquainted with the new individual. They need to build the rapport. They need to coordinate with the new individual, and this might take some time. Maybe the pace at which they work, the new the new replacement of the particular competence may be much better than the earlier one, and then people have to keep pace to the new incumbent. So this kind of changes may cause problems in the teamwork. Then inadequate interpersonal relations between team members may result conflicts, misunderstandings, and also no care for each other or not being empathetic to each other may affect on the communication between people, thereby affecting the relationship between people, and this relationship will have an impact on the progress of the project. Miscommunication or gaps in communication will affect the interpersonal relations. There will be there is a possibility of social loafing as well. Sorry, social loafing, like when there are people and there is an idle time or a slack time during which if they socialize, they may deviate or they may bring in some negative energy, or this may discourage others who have that spirit to work, and this loafing may also bring in, like as I mentioned, negative energy into it. So social loafing also is a problem for effective. Then there may be ineffective leadership itself. Somebody may have been chosen as a leader because of the experience they here, but the current project may require certain skills which this leader may not possess. Let us consider the technology driven projects, or say technology based projects. Though the leader may have immense knowledge on the project, but the new technology incorporated, this leader may not be savvy with it, and may not keep the pace, while the other members might be digitally more knowledgeable, and then here there might also come some ego issues, and the leader who doesn't understand digital technology well may itself become a hindrance, or the the leaders behavior may sometimes also affect the interpersonal relations of this group. Role ambiguity, if there is any kind of a setback in the role clarity, and then there are certain role overlaps, bring this may slow down the work, because people may expect the other person to complete that bit of the task, and this might slow down the entire process. So role ambiguity is another issue. Lack of trust. People may not have trust on each other. People may not have trust in the management. People may not have trust on the leadership. People may not have trust task or the goal itself. Sometimes the goals are too tough, but then the goals may be important. So when they have shortage of expertise, or when they have shortage of say guidance, then they may lose trust in the accomplishment of goal. So that may also impact. There domination of by one or more members in the group um, for whatever reasons, and this may not help the group run smoothly. Overall, there may be lack of motivation or lack of morale, which will also impact the group's performance. And at last, disagreement between people may also uh, impede the flow of work. So when we form groups, we must take care of the various requirements like the size, the composition, the leadership, the cohesiveness has to be maintained, and ensure that the right people in this group can take the group ahead and the organization ahead. Thank you.